Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network. So excited to have Inka Winter here talking today about foreplay films. Yeah, this is exciting. An independent, all-female production company that really has a mission to create holistic pornography. We're going to talk more about this, what she does, and of course, how you can all get involved. And it's foreplayfilms.com. That's FORPLAYFILMS.com. Welcome to the show today. How are you?
Good, thank you. Hi.
Pleasure to have you here. Excited to have you back on the show. And we're going to talk today, you as a sex counselor, educator, director of films, and so much. So let me have you start by just telling us a little bit about your company, Foreplay Films.
Yeah, so we make ethical feminist porn for women by women. And so I think there's like a few different elements that are important about that. I think first of all, it's like what we're showing is
Mm-hmm.
real female pleasure. It's things that women actually enjoy. Then we show it in a beautiful, like well lit and sort of erotic, sensual way. And then it's also like the ethical part is just how we work with talent, how we also work with crew and with each other. There's always communication, there are boundaries, like everybody is heard. So it's just like a different feeling altogether.
Beautiful. Well, let me get started off by finding out more about you. How did you get involved in this? Tell us how you grew up and how did you get into this field?
Well, how I grew up is a very separate, very long story because I did grow up in a cult in Austria. So
Wow.
story for a different day.
Okay, sounds good. Wow. Okay, a lot to you. Go
But
ahead.
yeah, like there's stuff happening there. But basically I got into this because I myself lost my libido after like a traumatic event and I was looking for things to do and I just couldn't find anything and trying to watch like mainstream porn was just very much of a turn off for me. And so I was just wondering like why isn't anybody doing this for women? You know, we are sexual creatures too. Like 50% of the planet are women, you know? And long story short, that's really what got me into it is sort of my own like need for it and the not finding the thing that's available. So yeah.
Beautiful. And you started this back in, was it 2017?
Yeah, that's yeah.
All right. So tell us about how you're bringing ethics, art, inclusivity, and arousal all in alignment through porn. Can you share a little bit about this with our listeners and viewers today?
Yeah. I guess like yeah, we can start with inclusivity because obviously it starts at sort of like who do you work with, what talent do you have when portraying your films. And I guess for me it's just really like anybody, you know, like there shouldn't be sort of a restriction of like sort of a mainstream standard beauty or you know race or body type and all of that. So for me like inclusivity is like who we portray is the first step to that. It also for me it's also about inclusivity of sexuality, so I do most of it is sort of like heterosexual films, but there's a lot of sort of like bi elements or queer elements, and I even do have a gay scene, so I just want to be inclusive of sexuality in general. And then when I work with talent, it's a very collaborative process. So I try to find out from them what are they into, what do they want to film, if it's anything specific sexually, or if it's just like a mood or a style, if they want to do like something 1920s or just it's a little bit of a like create your own fantasy type vibe for the talent.
Beautiful. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I feel like, you know, the more they enjoy every aspect of it, the more their pleasure is also going to be visible and, you know, enjoyable on screen. And then, you know, we focus that the talent already knows each other or has chemistry with each other or wants to work with each other so that
Mm-hmm.
there's like authentic chemistry. So it's all about
Beautiful.
chemistry, connection, intimacy, and autonomy in the sense of they get to say what they want to do and what they don't want to do. And there's no sort of discussion about that.
Beautiful. Well, what else do you want your listeners to know about you? I mean, we kind of dove into why you got into this, again, about not having something out there for women that we really want to watch or be a part of.
Right.
Why is it dominating the male industry? Yeah, so that's beautiful. And what else would you like them to know about you?
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about ethical feminist pornography, collaborative approach with talent, and working as a sex counselor as well on top of it. So there's a lot to
Yeah.
get to.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess like sort of starting from the beginning, because I was doing this in order to provide something that's, let's say, almost therapeutic, not just for women, but also for couples. So, if there's something that you're lacking and you want to do this with a partner, because, why not? So I came from this with this therapeutic approach, and at the same time, I was getting certified as a sex educator and counselor. So I feel like I kind of like merged those two aspects of my life into one sort of holistic pornography, where I find sort of the intentionality, and why do people have sex, and what do they want to get out of sex, and what hindrances could there be of people enjoying sex. So all of these things that I do when I counsel people, I take that into my films as well. And I've had done a film where somebody addressed their body issues, and sort of that led into a scene. So I'm trying to combine, even like I have mindfulness masturbations that I filmed. So the whole, I mean, like mindfulness is a big thing that I
Yeah.
do when I work with people in sexuality, because, mindfulness is all about focusing on sensation, noticing sort of the chatter in your mind, like all of the things that distract you, all of the negative voices that talk to you, all of the body shaming that you do to yourself. So I do that. I work with people, but I also have that. I have scenes that include that and that show that.
Beautiful. Well, thank you for being here again, for joining us. And if you are just tuning in, let's remind everyone how we could reach you. Tell us your contact information.
Yeah, so the website is foreplayfilms.com, and I also have the counseling website, that's inkawinter.com. And I am working on launching a website for sex toys as well. So that
Awesome.
will come
Oh my
soon.
goodness. So let me ask you this. What inspired you to get into the sex educational field and to help others? What drew you to
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, I think, to be honest, I think my instinct was just to want to be in sort of a counseling position. And this kind of goes back to my childhood and growing up as a cult, in a cult, and sort of having growing up in a cult, there's a lot of trauma, as
Okay,
we,
yeah.
assume. And so
Hmm.
I've spent a lot of my life dealing with that and overcoming things and finding methods to, kind of um work past that and be a more sort of happy, content, and stable person, in my life. And I just felt that I wanted to share that with people. And so that's sort of what get me into this counseling trajectory. And then obviously, like me doing the films, and then being interested in sex and relationships, combining those two things and really focusing and like specializing in this area just made sense.
Amazing. Well, thank you for being here and for joining us. And by the way, you're based out of where specifically?
Los Angeles.
But you work with people all over, right, when it comes to the counseling?
Yeah, oh yeah, that's the beautiful thing about, really, I guess, past COVID, where we all went online and now we just do things online. So, wherever you are, yeah, Zoom is there for us.
Oh my goodness, great. And let's talk more about the films in general, if you don't mind. Tell me some of the names of them. How many do you have already in production? How many are you
Yeah.
producing?
So the scenes that I create are short films, which
Mm-hmm.
means there's sort of like a storyline that leads us to the sex, because sex out of context, sort of as a female viewer, just doesn't really make sense. There needs to be a reason. Why is the
Yeah.
sex happening? The pizza man is not enough.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that was a good one. Yep.
And so all of my films are kind of short films that have like a little bit of an intro, and then they, lead to sex somehow. And I think I have about 40 on the website now. Um, And I guess there's like a really a variety of just sort of things that are really focusing on beauty and sort of more um like a there's not necessarily a storyline, but there could just be sort of like a beautiful entrance and there's like a beautiful scene and it's just sensual. And then there's little storylines that have a murder mystery dinner party porn. So,
Cool.
because I like period films and all of those things. I did one film where we took the 36 questions to fall in love. I don't know if you heard of them, but there's sort of these they're just questions to ask each other on a date that sort of basically start a conversation in a way and go deeper into like telling about yourself. So we started with those and we just filmed this sort of like, blind date and we had them ask these questions to each other. And it was just really amazing because they just answered for real. Like nothing was scripted, nothing was sort of like made up. They just answered the really deep personal like experiences, like including about their parents and whatnot. And, anyway, so they're sitting at the fire, they're asking each other these questions, and, one thing leads to another, and there's sex.
Awesome. Well, let me ask you this. Okay, so we go to the website. Can we actually watch the films there, or how do we purchase them? Can you share
Yeah.
that process, how that works?
Yeah, so right now, like there's just clips and trailers on before there's a payment wall. So you have to pay 9.99 per month, but you can cancel anytime. And obviously, I think one of the big things about sort of ethical porn is like pay for your porn because that way you make sure that everybody involved is sort of being treated ethically and fairly. So stay away from free porn.
Mm-hmm. Not to mention the websites that we all heard of probably and know of. Okay. This is
Yeah.
great. This is great. Now, also, do you work with the same cast of crew and actors a lot? Are you guys, the directors, producers, the editors? Do you have like a team in
Yeah.
place?
Yeah, I definitely have a team in place where I have like just a couple of cinematographers that I use all the time and a couple of editors. And again, like, we try to do like mainly like women or like people who identify as women. Also, obviously, like people of color. We just try to have like a diverse crew and talent obviously equally like it's all about diversity and there's definitely sort of like a core group of people but I obviously try to find new people get also diversity and sort of like just new people so there's just really a really great industry in LA and I think like a lot of I don't know what people's idea is of the porn industry, but all I can tell you is like the people and the performers are really like down to earth, like great people. Like,
Normal
and it's
people, not.
yeah, normal
Mhm.
people, and it's very like familiar. Like I feel like it's sort of like this big family. So the industry, like everybody knows each other, like you form relationships. It's a small industry. So it's very much that when I come to set and I hang out with people, it's like, oh, like so glad to see each other again. And we're sort of like chatting and we're catching up and we're just sort of like connecting also on a personal level, So I think that's important too.
And it makes it comfortable, of sure, for everyone. Now, let me ask
Yeah.
you this. How did you start, from transition from sex counselor to directing? How did this all come about?
Yeah, it's actually the other way around. I start with the directing.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah, so my history or my background is I'm a costume designer. So I was
Oh,
already working in film.
oh, see, this is what I want to find out. You said it was too long of a
Yeah.
story, but
Yeah. Well,
catch me up from
that's
there. Catch me up
yeah,
from
yeah,
there.
yeah.
Tell me.
Yeah, so basically I was a costume designer and on set and starting to have this idea about making films. And so being on set, seeing how filming works, like especially the production aspect, like what are the things that you need to be, it's not directing is like one thing, but there's a wardrobe and there's a location and there's like props and you also want to feed your crew and whatnot. So there's like really so much going into it. So working in film, I feel like I just had a really good idea of what
Yeah.
that is. And so transitioning to directing was kind of more like, so I had this idea of making these films, and I had somebody who was a cinematographer, a female cinematographer and director, and I was going to have her do it. But then when it came to the day off, she wasn't available, and we found another cinematographer. And I'm like, well, who's going to direct it? And she's like, you. And I was like, okay. So I really just kind of fell into the directing. I wasn't even planning on doing that for my own films, but then I
Mm-hmm.
did.
Yay, congratulations. And
Thank
how
you.
many have you done so far?
Yeah, I think it's like a little bit over 40. And then I also do direct for bigger companies like Last Cinema and Orcel. So I make feature-length films for them. And I also just did like this collaboration with this other company called Shush.com. Like we did like our own sort of like independent feature film together. Yeah.
Awesome. Amazing. Well, what other aspect of your work do you think is important for our viewers and listeners to know?
I mean, I guess I could talk a little bit about sort of the sex toys that I'm sort of
Yes, what's
launching.
going on with this? This is exciting. Come on, right? Because I mean, used to be back in the day, you would go to the local sex shop to get a sex toy. Now it's a
Yeah,
bundle. You can go to Amazon, but does
yeah.
Amazon really know you? No, we gotta, yeah, talk to me about, yeah,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
types of
and I think
products and toys that we're,
yeah, so what I wanted to do is I wanted to do something that is sort of like more like a beginner like basics, you know,
okay.
like I didn't want to get the I mean there's so many toys out there and so many variations and you know like where do you start and where does it end, right? So I wanted to find some really like good, solid toys that just really work well and also describe them much better than other websites. Because, you know, other websites, they're like, oh, achieve the big O, or just some
Yeah.
like random stuff where like, I don't know what that means for me. Is this going to work for me? I don't know. So
Mm-hmm.
basically, I got all these samples and I distributed amongst friends and had them all tested and
Mm-hmm.
reviewed. And then, based on my friends' reviews and commentary, we selected the ones that are sort of the best and the most sort of like reliable and efficient, and just made the selection of, you know, like a few rabbit toys, a few bullet vibes, a few wands, just sort of like the core selection of, you know, if you need something that's just working that you can use by yourself or for partnered sex, you will find all the things there, and they're reliable and they're tested and will tell you if we think they're good for you. Like, for example, some women come really easy, some don't, some need a lot
Mm-hmm.
of stimulation, some don't want a lot of stimulation. So how do you know that about a toy unless somebody tried it out and is telling you? And that's what we're
Mm-hmm.
going to do.
That makes it awesome. Wow. That's
Yeah,
the real true testimony of someone who used it to talk. You're right. You're right. Because you don't know what you're getting when you're ordering from these websites. And it's like, wait,
exactly.
what? Huh?
Exactly. And
Oh
there's
my.
nothing worse than like spending a bunch of money on a toy and then you're kind of like, that didn't work for me.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. You're right. So do you have the name of the company already?
Yeah, we're just gonna call it like it's gonna be Foreplay Toy Store.
What
And
is
I'm
it for?
definitely
Ah, okay.
foreplaytoystore.com.
Oh my gosh. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Perfect. And how'd you
It's
come up with the name for the company, for the film company?
Foreplay Films. How did I come up
Yeah,
with it?
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like it was like this whole like long brainstorming, and I feel like I've done this like a couple of times because I used to have a clothing line. So it's like, you know, it's always like, how do you come up with a name? So I feel like I start with a dictionary and I start here and there and I Google words and synonyms and then I send like a bunch of lists to friends and then I'm like, you know, select which one you like. And foreplay films obviously is sort of really cute, the wordplay, because foreplay as in foreplay, but then without the E, it sort of has this pun of like foreplay. And anyway, so that's kind of how
I
we
love
came
it.
up
I
with
love it.
this.
Now, okay, for those out there who may be new to the business of ethical porn, let's describe it. Compare the two. Regular porn
Yeah.
is mostly what we know, grew up on, and
Hmm.
share some of the major differences.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think there's sort of like these categories where you see like so there's mainstream porn. And then I think there's something that is a little bit more female friendly, which you see, it's still sort of like, it's not shot that great, but it's a little bit, I think it has a romance component. I would call that female friendly. And then ethical porn is really about how the porn is made and how are the people treated that are in it and on set. So to be honest, even mainstream porn can be ethical, right? Like it's not a contradiction necessarily. And then for me, I feel like so feminist porn for me means that I go beyond the sort of female friendly and make it a little bit romantic, but I'm really like, okay, what do women want to see? What do women enjoy? And obviously, that's a range of things.
Yeah.
Like, I have some BDSM. Women are into BDSM. Like, rough sex is totally a thing, but it has to be consensual and asked for. And
Yeah.
that's what the difference, like, there's consensual non-consent, but you have to make it clear that the woman is the one enjoying it and it's not for the pleasure of the guy.
Yeah.
And so I think that's like sort of the where, for me personally, feminist like means. I think for other people, feminism means different things. That's what it means for me, is putting the female front and center and her pleasure and whatever that means for her.
Got it. Now, what are some of the obstacles that you've had to overcome to get here?
I mean, I think it's always money,
Yeah.
like money
That's
is the,
I know. I wish I was independently wealthy, and then
yeah,
everyone says, "No, it's
yeah,
a curse," and I'm like, "How could it be a
no,
curse?" I'm like, "You could do so many amazing
I
things." I
I
don't know. I guess I don't
know.
know because you don't have it, right? So who grass is always greener,
Well,
maybe. But okay,
no, but what I always say is like I would be doing exactly what I was doing if I was independently wealthy. I could just do it on a different scale and with more ease. But I would still be doing the same thing. I would be doing nothing else. I would just be able to finance it myself from my own
hmm
money. And this way it's just like a little bit more complicated. And, obviously we're relying on press and people finding us so that we can have subscribers,
yeah.
because that's the only way. The thing, you got to have some money coming in to spend it.
So I was going to say, how do you get a budget? So how do you fund your films?
It's really mainly from, subscriptions. And then I think also like I feel very blessed of having friends that are just really efficient. So I think I have a smaller crew. I do a lot of the things myself. So I just also fund them by being the one doing all the work. I have talent, now in these days with like OnlyFans, talent monetize their own content. So I can do some collaborations with talent as well. So
Ah,
instead of like giving them a rate, I can give them the film and they monetize it themselves on OnlyFans, which is just sort of like a new way of doing things.
yeah,
And a lot of talent make more money with their OnlyFans than they do in other ways. So having content for that is something that they need. And obviously, what I make is very high end. So it's just very interesting for people to have something where I come in and I produce it, I pay for the stuff, I make it look pretty, and then they can monetize it. So that's another way of doing this.
so there's like a barter system going on, right? Because they're not, the
100%.
talent's not in a union, are they?
There is something called like a performers guild, but it's not the way that the guild is for regular film.
Like SAG. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so it's really, I mean, I think in the talent world, you have people that have agents. They can obviously have the agent sort of negotiate for them and do stuff. And then a lot of people don't like working with agents because it's its own problem. So like independent booking is like the other way that people do it. But then today, like in this world, there are people that are just content creators. They don't
Mhm.
actually show up to set on like a studio set and get paid at all because they don't want to deal with that stuff. So they just make dates with like other talent, film
Got it.
themselves, and then post it. So that's sort of the content creation world.
Got
So
it.
yeah,
Wow. All
yeah,
right. Well, thank you so much. Pleasure getting to know you today
yeah,
and learning about you and your field. And for those viewers out there and listeners that want to get involved to contact you, can you share again all forms of contact? And by the way, do you
yeah,
also have any social media pages as
yeah,
well?
definitely. Yeah, we're like on social media across all platforms at Foreplay Films. I also have an Instagram at inka.winter. The website is foreplayfilms.com, and for my counseling, it's inkawinter.com.
Perfect.
And I guess that's pretty much it. the website.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much. Pleasure getting to know you and all you do. And again, when are we talking about this launch of the product website? Do we have any timeline for that?
Hopefully soon. I'm also relaunching like foreplayfilms.com actually to have a little bit more descriptions, and like we'll have more like blog stuff. And what I kind of didn't talk about actually is the sex education that we do. We have sex education films on the website.
Oh, wow. We could, well, that's
Yeah,
perfect. Gives us content for next time when we speak. We're going to
yeah,
speak again,
yeah.
right?
I don't know yet. We'll find out.
Oh, okay, perfect. All right. Well, thank you. If not, pleasure getting to know you, to
Yeah,
meet you, and looking forward to speaking with you again. Okay. We'll
thank
connect. You
you.
have a great day. Thank you. And to all of our listeners, stay tuned. More of the show is on the way.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
Mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.